All right.
First investment property at age 18.
Good job.
Could be the house that he lives in.
It's fantastic. Right, see if I can. Did it. Oh, is it usually just a couple?
Usually a handful, but
It's usually more than this. But
Monday morning. It's Monday.
I think it's the rain.
Okay, and the roads were not great. Yeah, getting over here.
I mean, people may trickle in 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, perfect. Well, we'll get started and see what we like. This is kind of awkwardly. All right. See what we can learn today. Working with buyers and sellers. This is the fun part. You actually get to do deals. You've all so far talked about like getting ready to do deals. Now this is like, it's really happening. So, okay, let's see if I can figure out the clicker too. Maybe, maybe not. Am I going the wrong way? All right, well, that's.
He says push down to advance.
But neither one's working, up or down.
So what I've noticed is you first have to do it one time on a computer, and then it will work.
Ah. So like
that's just do the forward or back button, and then it needs your.
Okay. Oh, nothing's happening. Making weird noises at me. Okay, somebody else said they're the host, so I have to reclaim it before I can do anything. It's still not working. Turn up the volume. Oh no. It's always a good time when we can't get the slides to work. Come on, guy, come on. Very attractive people, but we want to move past you. See.
They are obviously buyers because they're getting their keys.
Oh, shoot, April, thank you. I don't know why it just clicks, it beeps at me. You'd think with as many times as I've done this that
Yeah. Double click to exit full screen, reviewing. No, it's not. It does not like you today. Well, don't text.
Yeah, text Hunter and see if he can come down because it's not working. All right, we'll get started. All right, so we're moving into the transactions. Talked about how to get the buyer, how to get the seller to sign with you, which some of you are doing. Good job, awesome. So we have a signed listing agreement or a signed buyer agreement, and then this is what's going to happen from there. So we will talk about how you're going to find key information to build success with buyers and sellers, strategies to assist your buyers and sellers making their decisions, and building a strong success foundation with the relationship so that you can continue to work with those clients and agents in the future. The interesting thing about this business is we do work with the same agents over and over again, and sometimes we have to work harder, depending on the agent. So start thinking about questions that you guys have and what you want to learn more about in this part of the process. Okay, does anyone have any thoughts right off the top of their head? It won't go either way with the clicker, with that. No, sorry. It wasn't just me, 3 people tried.
You know, multiple people say that about like buyers, like agents.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me just want to be like, I don't want to be that agent.
Right?
Like that, like, you know, like I want to be a good agent regardless.
All right, thank you. Down, right?
I don't want to be a bad agent.
The jerk.
Yeah, or like I missed stuff, or somebody else has to babysit me as the agent.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to be a good agent.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Makes a huge difference in reputation. It makes a huge difference in like how things go over time. No, okay, good. All right, that's where we're at. Okay, cool. What else? What else do you guys have questions about or concerns about? Things you want to know about? That's why we're here. Ivan, you were going to say something?
Yeah, because the actual like transaction, the whole process. To have like an idea of it, but not like a step by step.
Right. Okay. We'll go through some of that today for sure. Courtney?
I was just thinking, like, it's the little things, like, do I, you know, like in terms of accepting offers and the communication you have to have with your buyers, with your sellers when you're going back and forth about offers, or do you even, can you disclose that you have offers to the other agents?
That's a great question. And yeah, that's actually one that for the longest time, like I had my own opinion about, and then I found out there was a legal requirement. And I was like, oh, well, my opinion is my seller, it's in their best interest for them, for other agents to know that, yes, we have offers, right? That's my opinion, right? But apparently, according to the law, we're not supposed to disclose that we have offers unless our seller gives us permission. So it's something that I actually usually talk about in the seller presentation. Like, hey, if we do get multiple offers, you're okay with me disclosing that to the buyer's agents, correct? And they're like, oh yeah, of course. You know, it would be weird. Like, I think it's really weird when I call a listing agent with a buyer of mine and I'm like, hey, so do you have offers? And they're like, I'm not at liberty to disclose that information. And I'm like, are you a robot? Who are you? Like, it just sounds so weird. And it's like, it doesn't even make sense because
You could say, my buyer doesn't want me to disclose.
yeah, the seller
one
doesn't,
way or the other.
right,
So,
exactly.
That is-
I would probably write that, I probably should write that in to the listing agreement. That way you're covered if it ever came up. I've never had it be an issue. Like most sellers, they want that. They want the competition. But every once in a while, if I tell a buyer's agent, like they're just getting ready to show the listing, I'm like, hey, we do have offers? They're like, oh, never mind. We don't want to show it then. So that's the reasoning behind it. Like you could potentially lose some buyers, right? That's the reasoning. So, okay. All right. We'll go through that a little bit more in depth, but this is why we're doing what we're doing. Virtually every top producing agent we have ever worked with has a deep and almost inherent sense of service. Having a servant's heart and place their buyer and seller's real estate experience, I love, you said that already, above all else. And they're always thinking about service. And that was a great example Courtney had of her friend. She just listed her friend's house and she said, no one's going to care more than me. And I love that. And she's over there scrubbing the house, you know, that's awesome. So always thinking about service. Hi, Colleen. Okay, so this is what we're going to talk about. We are going to start with success with clients. And so what we're talking about today specifically is the time between when you get a signed agreement and then receiving and making offers. You'll talk more about like receiving and making offers in a couple sessions ahead. So our first topic is going to be success with clients and things that you can do to make it as transparent and as smooth for them as possible. So, and just if you guys have questions, just ask. We'll try and go through as quickly as reasonable, but I want you to ask your questions because this is good stuff. So you want to have great communication with your client. It does provide that strong foundation for a sustaining relationship. Good communication is the foundation of trust too, I feel like. If people know they can get a hold of you, if people know, it sets that expectation. Also setting and managing expectations proactively through the transaction. I usually try really hard with buyers and sellers, clients, to let them know up front, like I'm a human being, I'm not a robot, and my brain shuts down about 8:30 at night. So if you text me at 10:30 at night, chances are I won't even see it till the next morning because I put my phone away. Like, so they have an expectation that I am not going to be responding to texts at 10:30, 11:30 at night. They know that I will get back to them in the morning. So they're not panicked because everybody panics if they don't get an answer within 10 minutes, you know? So setting that expectation up front proactively. It gives your client that peace of mind that they know they can get a hold of you when they can get a hold of you. And again, like it enhances credibility and trust with your clients. So there's 3 levels of service. And we are going to talk a little bit more about purpose, value proposition, and fiduciary. What does that mean to you guys? You've heard these words, but what does it mean to you guys? What is any of them? Yeah, any of them really. Like what is your purpose? Like what is the reason they would hire you?
This is one of the things I love about Keller Williams, and especially this office. The culture is very client oriented.
Mhm.
I mean, we all are honest about the fact that we're here to make money. This is a livelihood.
Right, we need to.
Also, there's so much emphasis on putting the client's needs above your own, being a true fiduciary.
Yep.
Someone who is there to advocate for and represent their client and do everything in their best interest. I love that. So knowing that, and feeling empowered to let that be my purpose feels really good. Like we talked in previous classes about how a service orientation feels so much more comfortable than a sales
It
orientation.
totally, like if someone had told me when I was, 20 years old or whatever, that you're going to grow up to be a salesperson, I would have like laughed in their face. Like that just did not fit my personality. It still doesn't. Thank you, April. April knows me long enough to know that that's not true. It's just not my personality, but I want to help people. And so they have to have a need for us to be able to help them. So we have to have a clear understanding of why they need us. So that's kind of along purpose and being able to articulate it. So you have to have that clear purpose and then value proposition. You have to be able to articulate and translate your purpose into that value proposition. Why am I the best agent for you? And I love that. Courtney did so good. First listing, yay! So specific set of services and things that you will provide. And then the fiduciary, yes, putting your client's needs above your own. And we don't hear that word fiduciary very often, except in real estate and like financial matters, which real estate is a financial matter. But placing your client's needs above your own and being a level of care and trust. They should have that level of trust with you as their agent. Unfortunately, a lot of agents have ruined that perception for people. So, all right. If we talked a little bit about this, we're gonna skip over that. So dual agency. If you took my CE class, my mandatory residential class, you heard my horror story about dual agency and why about 15 years ago, I decided I would never do it again. That was before the office decided that that is not something we will do. So dual agency is allowed in Utah. And I actually really love it when I'm sitting down with my clients, whether it's a buyer or a seller, and I tell them I will not represent a buyer and a seller in the same transaction. And they're like, oh, of course. How could you? And they always say that, how could you? And I'm like, it's legal in the state of Utah, but you can't. You cannot represent a buyer and a seller, their needs and their interests in the same transaction. So if that does come up, you would be a neutral party. So you don't have that fiduciary, you lose that fiduciary interest. And so weirdly, people are coming in unrepresented. And I think the new changes in the NAR settlement that's coming up, I think we're going to see a lot more unrepresented clients just by the nature of that settlement. And so I think we're going to need to be more and more careful with how we address those. Go ahead.
Can I just ask about this really quickly? I was thinking about this morning. So say I'm doing an open house for my listing.
Right.
And an unrepresented buyer comes in. I'm not going to represent them, but if I refer them to another agent in our office, this is not dual agency, even though the broker is the same.
So it is dual agency within the brokerage, but it's not dual agency with one agent. That's where the problem. Yeah, exactly.
And then secondly,
Or
if
you
I want to charge a referral.
absolutely, you should. You should. Yes, absolutely. And it should be a hefty one. Like in that case, honestly, like it wouldn't just be like a 20, 25% referral fee in that case, because you just handed this buyer to someone. It might be more like a 75% referral fee.
So if
Or
you did a
something like that.
referral and you said like, here's 3 agents you could talk to, and they interviewed each agent, do you still get a referral fee, or has that agent
Oh, yeah.
kind of earned it?
I would pre-select who those 3 agents are and have that conversation with them up front. Like, hey, let's work this together. There's a couple of agents in the Valley, even some not even at this office, where we already have that set up. They're like, we don't want to work with an agent in your office. I want to work with somebody at a different office. We have it pre-set up. Someone walks into an open house at her listing and they don't want to be represented by someone in her office. She calls me, I write the offer. I pay her like 75% referral.
Is 75% of the 3%.
Mhm. Yep.
Or whatever.
Whatever, yeah, whatever you've negotiated and whatever, yeah, whatever the buyer's agent commission is. So that is a great way to get around it. I just recently, with all the talk about this, I'm actually going to beef up when I have an unrepresented buyer, like I have them sign the unrepresented buyer form, but I'm actually going to create a new form just for me that says, here's what I will not do with an unrepresented buyer. I will not give you advice. I will not give you recommendations for vendors. I will not give you, and make my list so that it's very, very clear. I will fill in the blanks with what you tell me you want the blanks filled in with. That's it. Like, here's the contract and I'll fill that in. Absolutely. And I will show that to my sellers. So my sellers know I really am working for them and I'm not going to, because sometimes it feels a little weird. Like you do get to like those buyers, or they're nice and you like them. So I want my seller to know that there's a clear line of what I will and will not do for this unrepresented buyer, as nice as they can be. They can.
Because legally you need to have that represented.
Yes, I need to be working for my seller.
And you could draw that line at fill in blanks.
Yeah,
Recommendations.
exactly. I'm not going to give you advice. What I might do is tell you what is commonly done, but I'm not giving you advice. This is what I see, a range between earnest money. I usually see a range between this and this, X and Y, whatever. Because if they're like, I don't know how much earnest money put down. Well, 1% is fairly typical for earnest money. So that kind of thing, but it's not my advice. It's just, here's what I see in the market, So you have to be really, really careful about that. So tell me your name in the back, sorry. Tucker. Okay, nice. Say it again. Tuck. Okay, not Tucker, just Tuck. Nice to meet you. I'm Amber Burke. Thank you. Yeah, and just ask away if you have questions. So, all right. So we won't go through this too much because we're not going to deal with it, but we are going to set those expectations, and that is a big, big part of it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the 3 different levels of service, and we talked a little bit about that fiduciary relationship. And so you can see what is important. Let's talk about the how. How are we going to be a great agent? How do you reach those levels of service? It's all about communication and education, I think. People how many houses do you buy in a lifetime, right? Especially if you're not an investor. If you are an investor, that number might be more, but if you're just a person, I personally have only 3 houses. I've only bought 3 houses in my lifetime. I'm like, is that true? That's true. Of my own to live in. I've bought investment properties and things like that, but to live in, I've only bought 3 houses. And I'm going on 50.
Yeah, that's about 1 every 15 years of your adult life.
Well, only like 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So people just don't go through it every day where we do. We go through it more often. So they are relying on us to know. And as things change, real estate changes so much. When I got my license, it's been 28 years. We literally had a book for the MLS. Like it would be delivered to our office. Yeah, I'm that old. I'm that old. Like it's just changed so much, and it continues to change. During the time that I've been a realtor, we went from commission was something that we didn't know what buyer's agents were getting to now it was very clear what a buyer's agent will get. Now we're going backwards to what we don't know what a buyer's agent's going to get paid. Like it feels like it's always changing. And so our sellers just constantly rely on us. So, and a lot of people have never done it. First time buyers, they really are relying on us. So, okay, so we got to demonstrate our expertise and educate the clients on the realities of the market. Let's say the last time I bought a house was 14 years ago. It was a totally different market. That was 2010. Actually, we bought land and built a house, I guess. We bought bank-owned land that sat there forever and ever and ever. And the market was totally different than it is today. So if I were a consumer coming in, I have that expectation in my head, and the market is totally different today. And it changes all the time. It changes from, I had a buyer come into town beginning of March, looking in a lower price point. And when we started looking, they hadn't sold their house in Oregon yet. So we were just getting ideas, right? At the very start of looking with them, we could have made offers on any house we wanted to and been just fine. Within 2 weeks, the market shifted so much that every single house in their price range had multiple offers that quickly. And it just totally shifted our strategy. You know, now we're looking at, before we were looking at houses, their budget was like 475 was their max. We're looking at houses to 475. And now those houses are selling for 515. We need to now look 450 and below. And it was a crazy experience. They were lucky that they got a townhome, new construction, that they got the last one. So they were really lucky. But that reality and how quickly it can shift. Same thing with like when COVID happened. I literally listed a house the day the world shut down, you know, the day the Jazz game got canceled, all of that. We listed it that morning and we were planning an open house that Saturday. We had everything set and it was like the world just stopped and everyone was like, what is happening? Like that reality, that was the first time I ever like had to tell a client, I don't know. Like I do not know what is good. And I had to be perfectly honest with them. I have no idea how this is going to affect real estate. I'd lived through the Great Recession. I'd seen how that like impacted thing. I lived through 9/11 in real estate and how the world kind of stopped for a little bit. But this was so different. And to have to tell them like, I don't know how this is going to impact things. And to have to, now we're having to have an open house virtually and do all this thing. It was really, really weird. Like that was the weirdest time I've ever been in real estate. And to see that happen was very interesting. But having that communication, especially those clients, I remember they were nervous people, just in general, very, very nervous people. And she even told me later, she's like, just the fact that you reached out to us and like kept us calm through that and told us truthfully, you don't know, like you could have made up any kind of line and we would have been, you know, okay with it, but you told us the truth. And we worked through it together and we got their house sold and everything's fine. And I actually have since, they moved out of state and they've since moved back and I sold them a new house. So they said they would never use anyone but me. I thought that was awesome. So setting expectations, that really was, I had another client during that time. They were trying to get their house on in the spring and then they had to move for their work and they kept pushing back and pushing back. We finally got their house on in July, like the beginning of July, I want to say, right when interest rates spiked like overnight. And same thing, it was like, I don't know, you guys, where the bottom is, because we had listed their house, say, where were we? On the exact same street of their same floor plan on their same street had sold at $595. So we were like, oh, we'll list at $575. That sounds really attractive. I think that's a good price point. We'll get some buyers. We had nothing. It was completely silent. No showings, no calls, nothing at $575. And I was like freaking out, like, we priced this really well. What's going on? And interest rates kept going up and the builders around them all just dropped their prices like 50 grand, like overnight it went. And so
Because they're hoping to get it out before.
yeah,
it's all really.
exactly.
settled.
Yeah. So it was crazy. We ended up selling that house, I want to say at like 520. But
So you just kept going.
yeah. And and they kept asking me, where's the bottom? Where's the bottom? I said, I don't know. Like this is one time where I thought 575. I thought when we dropped it to 550, that was like, oh, people will be lining up outside the door. They weren't.
But they just listened earlier.
It would have been fine. They probably would have got 575, no problem. Yeah. So it's just timing and it's just being aware of what's going on in the market, setting those expectations. So you just never know what might happen. So this is where we're going to go through with your clients. With this would be a buyer client. So you're going to, obviously, they're going to partner with an agent and we're going to explain to them why that's important. We've already kind of done that in the previous classes. Get them pre-approved for a loan. Literally just had this happen with my sister. My sister owns a rental property, a condo, and she's been talking to me for a month or two about wanting to sell it and buy 2 more. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. I'm like, but have you talked to a lender? I've said that to her probably 10 times in the last month. And she's like, oh, no. Like, Allison, seriously, you want to buy a $900,000 triplex. How are you going to afford that? Like, they're going to offset it by some of the rents, but not all of it. And she's like, oh, well, then she started talking about buying 2 townhomes, and they were like $400,000 townhomes. I said, okay, let's look at this. You're going to have $100,000 equity from the sale of your condo. So your payment on one of these townhomes is going to be $2,500 a month, maybe more, probably more like 27. You can't rent it for that. And she's like, oh, like she hadn't even done the math at all in her head. And I was like, you want to, sounds like a great idea. Let's spend $800,000, rent some property that we can't afford. And hopefully in the long run, it eases out. Like, it's just, she hadn't even had that first step. And because she was my sister, maybe I was a little more like, yeah, I'll at least entertain the idea with you a little bit, but go get pre-approved for a loan. Like, you're not going to be able to afford it on an 8% interest rate, you know, to be able to cash flow these properties. So setting clear search criteria. It's all different with every buyer. And I always tell them, like, when I set up an alert on the MLS, I love those alerts, that we can change them at any time. But I have clients coming in May, beginning of May, and they've not lived in Utah ever. She's so cute. She said she grew up in Idaho, and they would come down to Lagoon every year. Like, okay, so you know where Lagoon is. And like that, as a kid, that you don't pay attention to houses and stuff. He's going to be working right by the airport, and they don't know. We're going to be doing a lot of driving when they come because they just don't know the area. So setting that criteria for them was like this humongous geographical area, because they don't know if they want to be north, if they want to be south, if they want to be west. They can't afford east. So, you know, like, this is what we're going to do. And then we're going to go out and look for your new home. And again, keeping them informed on what the market is doing. Every price point is a little bit different right now, but that under 500 price point is hot right now. Very, very busy. And letting them know, like, hey, if we see something in this price point and you like it, you're going to need to make an offer right away. This is not the market to sit around and wait in that price point. Different price points, different market, but we're going to make an offer. We're going to negotiate the terms of the offer. Then we'll go under contract, hopefully without too many tries. And then once we go under contract, then there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I'm going to do. We're going to coordinate with getting inspections and title and appraisal and getting everything ready for closing, and then closing, and then post closing. So what questions do you guys have about this part, the whole process here? I feel like I'm talking a lot.
If you sign a contract with like a buyer, is that like before? Or
Yeah, so that would be before. Like, that's them partnering with an agent. That's the very, very start of this process.
and then the under contract is to buy, right?
Right. So we found a house, they love it, we make an offer, it gets accepted. Yeah, good questions. Awesome. Anyone else? All right, we'll move through. So, okay. All right, so let's see. Time expectations. If you told a buyer that they have to get out the same day that the house hits the market 2 months ago, they're not going to remember that. Like, they're still getting their financing together, and it might have changed in 2 months. Like that, they're getting set up. So now you're setting up the search, and you're getting update them on how quickly the market's moving in their neighborhood and in their price point. So you're going to make it clear, like, hey, you work 9 to 5, but if a house comes up, we're going to need to go see it at 5:30. You know, like, we're going to need to see that. And same for sellers. Like, I have a seller right now where they're in a higher price point, doesn't get as many showings. We're not going to see as much activity. So keeping them prepared, because they bought this house 2 years ago when the market was insane, and they're expecting showings all the time. And I'm like, it just doesn't happen that way. So having them upset rather would be worse, but then letting them know upfront what's going to happen, or expectations. And then it's always good if our expectation, if we exceed that rather than the other way around. So a lot of people will have struggles with making such a big decision about what house to make and what house to buy, making that decision like so quickly, feeling pressured, feeling like they have to make that decision right now. It can be very, very stressful. And the couple things that I like to let people know is, unless the contract says you can't, we always have that due diligence time period to back out for any reason. Like we can get under contract, we can still back out for any reason. Of course, we don't want to do that. Of course, you want it to be the house for you. But if that is something that really struggles, that they're really struggling with, then they definitely, that might help them. All right. Yeah. I mean, yeah,
I think we want it, but we don't know enough about it.
exactly. That's why you do your due diligence. That's why we have that time period to check into things. Okay, so yeah, ask.
Say if you're during due diligence time period and your client wants to look at what houses.
Ooh, that's a sticky one. That can be sticky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can get really interesting because when the market was so hot, I would actually have, and there are multiple offers on every single property in Utah. I'd have agents ask me when I make an offer, are they offering or are they still looking at other properties? And how do you answer that honestly? And that can be really sticky. I usually tell them, hey, let's focus on this one at first. And then if we need to go see others, then we can. But if this one doesn't work out, like if this isn't the house for you, fine, let's back out, let's move on. But it can be a really sticky spot. And there's a lot of every time. So if you guys go to the UAR convention, they do it every year. They do it in state and then out of state. I think this next year it's in San Diego in September. They have what they call a legal panel where all the UAR lawyers get up and like talk. And that's one of the things they've talked about a lot is like, that's a really gray area because you're saying we're under contract on this house, but we're still going to look at others. It's just a gray area in terms of like what you're representing to the seller. Like we're invested in this house, but you're really not,
So you try and talk
I
your
try to avoid
buyers
that. Plus it's a big waste of your time. Like honestly, like I don't want to waste my time and I don't want them being so wishy-washy. Yeah, if they're that wishy-washy that they're like, this isn't the house for us, I'd rather them just say, this isn't the house for us. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a hard spot to put you in when you're like I've had to do it where I've had to call the listing agent and say, they're backing out and they say why. And I say, they just changed their minds. And I'm like, oh, I really, really don't like this feeling. I don't like, that I know they found another house.
Well,
But
and then you become that agent that they don't want to
yeah,
work with you.
yeah, exactly. Potentially. You don't have to prove it though. I tell my buyers, like it can be, you don't have to show any reason with due diligence. It can be anything. It can be, I don't like this color of the sky today. I'm backing out on this house. Doesn't matter. You don't even have to tell the reason, honestly. But as a courtesy to the other agent, usually it's nice to know why they backed out. So documents, all right. Setting expectations for document. Did we answer that question? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so you're gonna wanna, like, especially with first-time buyers, sometimes I will, depending on how their anxiety level and sometimes I will sit down with them at the pre-consult meeting and say, we'll go over the contract. Like these are things we're going to negotiate as part of the contract when we find the right house. So they know like, hey, these are things we can ask for because a lot of times they don't know. Like we do have that due diligence window. We do have this financing and appraisal window. We do have time to ask for a home warranty or things like that. So sometimes that's good to go through beforehand so there's no confusion. Things that have come up in the last couple of years that never came up before was waiving due diligence, waiving appraisals. That never used to happen until COVID. And like just understanding that and understanding the risks of that and understanding what they're going to get from the seller. They're going to get disclosure documents. They're going to get title reports and things like that. So at every stage, you're going to go over every document and kind of set the pace of what comes next. The most important, I think it was Gary Keller that said in one of the online trainings, the most important phrase in real estate is, here's what happens next. That's what our buyers and sellers all need from us. Yeah, I loved that. I was like, that is so true because so much of miscommunication in real estate is when they just don't know what's going to happen next. And I always feel like if they have to reach out to me with a question before I've reached out to them, then I've kind of failed. You know, like I want to proactively get to the questions before they even know they have them. Like I've done this enough times that I should know that, right? Okay. Oh, this is always a good one. When we make an offer, there's an acceptance timeline, right? So we make an offer. I was helping an agent the other day. We make an offer. Deadline for acceptance is 7 o'clock today. Let's just say 7 o'clock today comes and goes. We don't hear from that agent. Then what? Like, oh crap.
They
What?
can still counter.
They can still counter, but some, what did you say, Ty? Yes, the offer becomes void. It can be brought back to life by a counter offer. But setting that expectation with your buyer that, hey, they may not get back to us by 7 o'clock because your buyer is going to be calling you at 7:01. What'd you hear? What'd you hear? Have you heard anything? And like in this market, like a different one that I was helping somebody with, they had 15 offers on this property. And they just said, like people started making offers on Wednesday and they just said, we're going to answer them on Saturday. Like that's when we're going to answer.
Even if their date.
Yeah, so it might have been past their acceptance deadline. We still might accept your offer, but we're going to like just communicating that, you know, letting people know what to expect.
The buyer were still okay if their offer was.
Oh yeah, they wanted,
Saturday?
yeah, they wanted the house. So Mhm.
Situation, multiple offers.
uh-huh.
There are buyers that want to see the property before the open house. I'm kind of gonna hold all the showings to the open house, but this is a special situation. So I was gonna let these buyers come through first.
Mhm.
So if they give us an offer and they know that we're not accepting any offers until Saturday,
Mhm.
and they try to force our hand, like,
They
give us
can.
the deadline.
They will.
So then just let it go and still come back to them on Saturday.
If they're still around, they may have found something else. You know, that's the risk you run. They may have moved on mentally where they're like, I don't want the house anymore. I've already like picked it apart in my brain. You know, you've got them when they're emotional, when they write the offer and they're excited and they're happy and they want it. And so sometimes just over time, people just lose that allure, you know?
But you can set the expectation.
Yeah,
With them.
up
when we
front.
walk through.
Yep.
We're not getting back to anybody until this date.
And I've still had, even when I've said that clearly, very, very clearly, I've still had agents say, well, if you accept our offer today, you know, then we'll da-da-da-da-da-da. And we're, yeah. So yeah, you have more time to think about it than everybody else. Everybody else is going to be pressed for time where you guys have a little more time. That's, yeah. Unless they make such a great offer that your seller is like, why would I not take this? Why would I go through the hassle of selling my house? You know, then maybe that's up to your seller. And your seller can always change their mind on that. So.
She's got, you know, this home and it's gonna be hot.
Mhm.
And, she's got this potential buyer coming in before.
Yeah.
You know, that showing before they're taking these offers. What would you do?
I would tell them very clearly, like, hey, we're not going to be looking at offers till after the open house or whatever the window is. And just, yeah, unless the seller decides to do otherwise, it's really on them. Do they know the seller? Okay, sometimes it's in the same neighborhood and they know each other and it can get weird because they're like, why haven't you accepted my offer yet? You know, right.
We don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. For sure. I get to be the bad guy and I get to say, nope, not today. You know, we'll deal with it when we deal with it. When are you listing it? What's
Hopefully tomorrow. We're
Okay.
getting pictures today. and
So
then
that's
open
not
house
too
on
long.
Saturday.
Yeah. So I tell my clients, like, if we list on a Wednesday, I'm okay with showings Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Like, I'm okay with that, but letting people know we're not going to look at offers till Saturday.
Back to- Well, maybe even till Monday. Because if they're looking at
Potentially.
it Saturday.
Right. Yeah. Or I would, it depends on how crazy it is.
If I'm gonna go knock doors in the neighborhood and say, come to the open house, come to the open house, and then they get some smoking offer and
Mhm.
accept it.
Yep.
How bad is that?
It's awesome for the neighborhood.
You just say,
Because the neighborhood will love that because you got such a good offer that you canceled the open house. Then you go to all the neighbors and say, look at this, we got the most amazing offer so quickly before we even had the open house. And there's a demand in this neighborhood, you know,
Say,
backup
have an
offers.
accepted offer to backup.
You could, yeah. And people might want to do that. That's up to you and the seller. But I had this happen one time this was at the very beginning of COVID. I had this house, it was listed, it's a tiny little house. It was like 1,200 square foot little house, you know, no basement. And we listed it, I want to say like high threes, 375. And that was a good price point for this house at that time. And we started showings. We said, okay, we're going to start showings Friday morning. We're going to show it through the weekend. They actually went to a hotel because we knew it was going to be really busy. They had twin babies and dogs, and they're like, we're just going to take off, you know? And so I was like, okay. From the time we started showing it at 10 o'clock on Friday morning, after they walked out the door and shut the door, it was like a revolving door, constant showing after showing after showing after showing. By Saturday night at 6 o'clock, I had 28 offers on this house, and all of them were, there was one that was full price. The rest were all crazy over. I think we sold it for 428. Yeah, but
You
just
even come up with an offer that high. I would never even know to it.
right.
Client to come up that high.
They all just were coming in higher and higher and higher, and that one was cash, so it was like hard to say no to. But yeah, it was crazy, and just putting those offers together and comparing them and showing that to the seller, and like, why is this one better than this one? I don't remember why I started telling you this, but a similar kind of situation where it was like, I had to actually shut off. We had planned on there being showings on Sunday if needed. And I just finally said, no more showings. Like, we are done. I had one agent actually send over an offer Monday morning. And I was like, you did not read the MLS. And she was so sad. And hers was just full price. And I was like, you wouldn't have had a shot anyway. like seriously, you didn't have a shot at this. But just having that expectation, like, we just said, no more, we're done. Like, it's been too many. 28 offers is enough. We can choose a good one from this. We don't need 35. We don't need 40. Like, we're good. You know, and like for the sellers to just have that, like, okay, we can go back home and quit worrying about this. But yeah, exactly. Mhm.
For that, house, and for all those people that can say not, you said hi, for those who have contact information, to either for your own listing or open house, to make the argument.
Future.
Hey,
Yeah, if you had potential buyers that had contacted you without an agent, yeah, here's some other potential properties. But that could be something you tell your seller, like, hey, they may offer let's say you're listed at 375. They may come in with a great offer that looks like a great offer, but we might by Saturday have higher. So you just never know. Or you may only have one. You just never know what might happen. So usually the best way to get the best offer is obviously exposing it to the most people. And so the best price is going to come from that. I would have never thought we'd sold that house for 428. I was like, maybe 400 if we get a buyer that doesn't need an appraisal. Because I was like, there's no way it will appraise. Well, we got a cash buyer, so didn't need to appraise. So you just never know what that great offer is going to be. So, okay. Communication expectations. Some agents really do feel like they can never shut their phone off. And I admit I'm a little bit that way. I was a little nervous when I took a trip and I was like, oh, I'm on a flight for 7 hours and nobody's going to be able to get a hold of me for 7 hours. Like, it makes me a little nervous. Like, but at the same time, I do have expectations with my clients of what's real and like what's going to happen. So I kind of try and pay attention though to how my clients communicate with me. If my clients mostly communicate with me by picking up the phone and calling me, if I have something to tell them, I'll pick up the phone and call them. If my clients never pick up the phone and call me and they just text all the time, obviously that's my easy go-to. Do they want it to go to both spouses? Let's say both spouses, do you both want to? Sometimes parents, yeah. Co-signers, right? So I have a really good friend of mine from high school who was living in upstate New York, selling a house. She was the owner of the house. She was married, but she was recently married. Her husband was not on the title to the house. And she asked the agent up front, like, please just text us both when there's showings or when there's anything that needs to be dealt with, you know, repair requests, whatever. He consistently just went to the husband over. Husband wasn't even on title. And she just was so mad. And I don't blame her. It's her house. It's totally disrespectful. And yes, exactly. It's very sexist. But you know, what if one of the spouses works nights and they have to leave their phone on? Like, I tell my kids, my daughter-in-law works nights, and I tell her, like, you can text me at 3 a.m. I just won't see it till I wake up. And my son was like, really? So like if I was in an accident and like had to get a hold of you, you wouldn't answer your phone? I'm like, I wouldn't even hear it. I wouldn't even see it. I'm like, call dad. His phone will go off. He'll sleep through it all. And I'll wake up because his phone's going off. Because he'll sleep through anything. Right. But I'm like, yeah, just call his phone if anything really needed to happen, because he would not wake up, but I would. But yeah, no, I don't, because I have had clients call me at 1:30 in the morning to tell me they were finished painting. Thank you. Thank you for that. I was like, you literally woke me up thinking someone was dead because you're calling me at 1:30 in the morning. Oh, we're done painting. I'm like, I want to kill you right now. Right? Exactly. So, and then for a lot of people, the time between like 4 and 7 p.m. is a rough time, you know, mom time, dinner, kids, homework, whatever. So like getting the expectation up front is just helpful for you to communicate with them in the way that they want to be communicated with. All right, let's keep moving. I don't even know what time it is. So if I'm talking way too much and oh yeah, we have an hour, a little more than an hour left. Okay, contingencies. Okay, so what if you are out of town? Obviously have a backup plan. Have them know who they can contact to see. If you're going out of town for a wedding or, you know, whatever, make sure they know who to contact. And also with your sellers, make sure that you could respond to offers over the weekend if you're going to be gone. Okay, so let's move on to up-to-date market expectations. We kind of talked about this a little bit. The realities of the market and when it's extremes. Like, let's talk. I don't know where this came from. This is KW's slide, so I don't know where that. Yeah, I would think so. It looks like it. That's all. Otherwise, that's a lot of listings in the same little short area. Right? What's wrong with this? It's haunted. It's haunted. So I sometimes work for corporate relocation companies, and they require, like, it kind of is good for me as a reminder, they require every 2 weeks for me to submit a new updated like CMA on listings. Every 2 weeks, what new has come on the market? Have any of the ones that we originally looked at as comps sold, like that were active, have they sold? And so
Because they want to adjust their price.
if needed, yeah. Like, so letting your seller know upfront, like, hey, we're going to keep on top of this. And if it takes more than a month to get under contract, there's a couple things. So if we have no showings into the first 2 weeks, we are obviously overpriced, right? If we have 10 showings and no offers, something's wrong. What's wrong? Is it the price or is it the condition? What can we change? And so what is our expectation? Whether that's going to be a timeline of like every 2 weeks, we're going to talk about this, or every 30 days, we're going to talk about this. You're going to get them up-to-date information in a periodic timeline. So, or it might be, hey, every 10 showings, if I talk to the agents and they're telling me, like I had one recently, it was a really rough floor plan that you walk in and there's like literally no family room on the main floor. Like it's just a hallway to the kitchen, pretty much. And so that was the feedback we got over and over and over and over. And I said, we either need to lower the price or wait for the buyer that's not an issue for, which who's that not an issue for? Like every buyer wants a family room, right? So yeah, that was a rough one. They did have one in the basement, yeah, but not. No, the builder built it that way. And I think that builder needs to be shot, but you know, there is not that old, like 10, 15 years old. So unusual.
He even sold that floor plan in the first place.
Yeah, and they bought it at the peak when everything was crazy,
There
and
wasn't
yeah,
offers.
there were no, yeah, exactly. And so it's like, but I had to tell them that the very first time I met them, like, this is going to be an issue. Like they're like, young couple, newlywed, no kids. They were like, it is? Like, it didn't bother them. Like, it wasn't something that bothered them and how they lived in a house. So just letting them know, hey, we've had 10 more showings and every single one of them has said the same thing. So
Do you always get feedback from agents after showing?
try.
So do you pursue it and do stuff or?
Depends. If you can get a hold of them. So automatically, like if you're set up with aligned showings on the MLS, I created my own questionnaire. You can do that in aligned showings. Like, here's my question. There's a default one, but I don't love the way it's worded and I don't love the way the questions are. So I created my own questionnaire. So immediately, like within, I think 30 minutes after they show the property, they get an email asking them for feedback. And then I think they get another one like the next day. So sometimes they'll just be proactive and actually do that. But the agents that don't, I'll usually text them the next business day or two, and say, hey, what did you guys think? Just love your feedback. And about maybe half of those actually respond to that text. I try. I tell my clients, though, don't expect feedback from every single showing. About a third of the agents, just no matter what, will never respond to me. Like, I can try for a month and they'll never respond to me. Like, it just doesn't matter. So
Would be a good idea to tailor that questionnaire to the house or that
totally. Oh, totally. Yeah. If there's a specific thing about that house, like mine just asks, it asks like, what was their most favorite thing about the house? What was their least favorite thing about the house? And then, are they still considering it or have they crossed it off their list? Because then I know, like, oh, they've crossed it off their list. They're not even considering this house.
Questions that are there, like, is it in the market? Is it
Price.
right?
Yeah, I don't,
Are they gonna make an offer? Are they gonna look at it?
if they want to go see it again. Yeah, that's a default survey and I don't love
Yeah.
those questions. Exactly.
And they always think it's.
Well, and as a buyer's agent, I'm never going to tell them how I think it's priced. I skip that question every time. If I do, when I give feedback, if it asks, do you think it's priced right? I just skip that. I don't answer it. Exactly. Yeah, I'm either giving away my buyer's position, which I don't want to do. Yeah, unless it clearly is very overpriced, then yeah, then for sure I'm happy to say that. But if I think it's priced right, I'm not going to tell them. Yeah.
Yeah, as a listing agent, like very good place.
Yeah.
But then recently, been more of a buyer's agent lately.
Uh-huh.
I could show 5 or 6 houses that day. And in
You
one
forget
house,
which one.
They don't, they're not interested.
Right.
And I know I'm gonna get asked for feedback, so I take something that I can write down. But the other day, I got the pile and I was busy, and so I just ignored.
You just don't get to it. It's not high priority.
So
Yeah.
that's a lot of times. So
Yeah.
now I have a better perspective of it. On the other side,
Yes.
and,
Hmm.
which
Right.
is what I tell them.
Yeah.
Within
Or
the
the house didn't stand out enough in your mind to even give good, decent feedback. Like, I mean, if it was all orange, oh, it was the one with the orange walls. Okay, then that helps me remember they hated it, like, but a lot of times they're all very similar and you're like, they just
Want it.
didn't like it. Something about it. It smelled right. Yeah. So and yeah, but a lot of times I mean, if there is a funky smell, I do want the agent to know that because I would want to know that. If there's something that's fixable, I'm trying to remember the last one. If there's something clearly that needs to be addressed immediately, like I will call the agent right now, like, hey, there's a leak at the, smells like gas in this house. Oh yeah, for sure. Because if it smells like there's a gas leak, I want someone to know right away. And I would want that for my listings too.
Well, I'll tell
So.
you the benefit of that too. If you text message it, so you text them that, further down the road, you come back to them for whatever reason, text messages are always there.
Yeah.
So now they're gonna see, and it could be a
You
year
had their
later.
back.
Yeah.
and they're gonna remember that you were nice enough to tell
Mhm.
them whatever it was.
Right.
And
We
like,
had a bird that got into our house and the agent didn't tell us.
And it died in the house.
And pooped everywhere.
Oh
Trying to get it
no. Oh yeah.
out. It might have still been alive when they were there. They didn't ever.
Oh, shoot. Yeah,
that
you,
feedback.
you
And
would
you're
think
kind
that
of
would
like,
be,
Of course, then it's like, where's Waldo? But they're not looking for the food in
Oh.
every single room. They're not looking at the food. They're not
right.
gonna buy it.
No, and that's too distracting to get to anything
And
else about the
more
house.
showings in
Ye-
between
was there
until
poop
you
everywhere?
actually found out.
Right, right. All good things to keep your clients informed with. So, all right, setting expectations. KW Tech has a lot of ways to do that. I'm going to skip right over this because okay, 3 steps to gaining referrals: providing value, asking for help, and then reward the referral. So obviously providing value, we've talked a lot about that, how you can be their agent and provide them what they need, but asking for help, like letting people know that your business is based on repeat and referral customers, like that's huge. People don't understand. If they've never had a real estate license, they don't understand how it works. They don't know, most of them, most general public does not understand that we don't get paid for showing up here. We don't get paid for showing 100 houses. We only get paid if it closes, right? Most people really don't get that. They think that I don't know what they think, but they don't care because they just want their house and they just don't really care. So
Like, even for myself, word of mouth, like if I know somebody who like is like, oh, I love this carpet cleaning business.
yes,
That is way more value to me than even like looking online and
Totally.
seeing the reviews of stars. Now I still will do that.
yeah, yeah.
But it's more value if it's like
A
friend,
personal
somebody
referral.
that I know and trust them, and they had a good experience.
Yep.
Great, those are probably the exact same people that are going to be coming.
Yeah.
I'm going to be dealing with, and I want that.
People like you, like the same things. Yeah, and trying to present like why I'm the best agent for you. If your friend referred you to me, then like that's so easy for me to watch. I've done it for too long. I'm like 28 years in the business where most of my business is repeat and referral. I rarely like go into a situation cold. And so I almost forget, like I once had an agent ask me, can I go on a listing appointment with you? And I'm like, I don't know how valuable that would be because I'm just going to say sign here. Like it's not as much as like presenting and showing and why I'm the best agent for you. Because I've done it for so long and because people refer them to me, that's the best business you could possibly get.
You don't have to sell yourself. because
No.
Their friends. will.
Yeah, they already said like she's the best because, and I usually ask them, why did your friend say that you should call me? So they tell me something that their friend said, and I'm like, okay, well, I need to make sure I capitalize on that with these guys. Yeah, yeah, whatever their friend said, like she made sure to keep us completely in the loop. Okay, that was important to this person that referred, that she did X, Y, Z. Or it could be, oh, I'm rarely is it she gave us a great gift basket at closing. That's not why they chose. You know what I mean? But that's also something I do. Try to keep that memorable.
Successful closings have for you.
I mean, it could be the one. It could. Literally my first closing was they referred people to me. My very first closing 28 years ago. $80,000 condo, guys. It was my very first closing. Shows how long ago it was. And they referred some other people to me. So it doesn't have to be a time. It doesn't have to be a specific thing. It's just treat people well and they will tell their friends. Like I was young and we were in that stage of life where we were all getting married and kind of getting into buying our first places. And so it was just a lot of my friends at first. So just, you never know. And then their friends and kind of snowballs out from there.
At certain steps in the process, do you ask at the end? Do you ask in the beginning at the buyer consultation? Like you could say, I want to do a really good job for you because my business is built on referrals and I would love to help.
That's a great, do I personally know? So I'm a bad example, don't learn. I'm like, don't learn from me, but no, but it's a great thing to set that expectation again. Like, yes, I would love to do the best job for you possible so that when your friends need to buy, you automatically think of me. You would not let them use anyone but me, because you had such a good experience. So yeah, definitely. And at the closing is another good time because they're excited, they're happy usually. And they're like, it's an exciting time. So, but rewarding the behavior. So I don't wait for the closing. So like some of my referrals that I get are never going to close, right? They just sent me a buyer doesn't work out, they end up moving out of state or whatever, I still am going to reward that, and I don't wait until we get to a closing. So lately, this is what I've been doing. I bought this little gift box that's bright yellow, and I fill it up with all kinds of yellow things. You know, you see those sunshine boxes or whatever, including like, what was it? Cheesecake Factory gift card because it's yellow. and I will hand deliver this to their house, thanking them for the referral. So, and then I had one client like literally cry when I delivered it. She's like, oh, I would have totally referred them anyway. I'm like, I know, I just want to thank you. Yeah, I want to thank you for that. And like, yeah, so just rewarding that, whether it's $10 to Swig that they get in the mail in a handwritten gift card or a note, you know, they'll remember that. Whether it's whatever it is, I just immediately, when I get the referral, done, they get a gift, they get a reward. So keeps them remembering me, and just remembering that referring to me is going to be a good thing for them and their friend, you know. So did you have a question, Colleen? You look like you're okay.
No, that was really good, because I never thought about doing it that way.
Yeah. And that's one that's fresh in their mind too. They just referred someone to you. And I've had people say, oh, I've got some other friends too. So this is where I personally am not great at asking for reviews. But it is online reviews, because it is where people are going to look, even if they got referred to me, they're going to look online, and they're going to look for that opportunity. So I've gotten a little better at asking for them, but it's important, especially in your first deals. You could even ask for reviews from other people in your past life. You know what I mean? Like in maybe a past job that you worked in or something like that, where you are very detail oriented, or, you know, things like that will help you in real estate. Like just think about that a little bit more outside the box of how, like April said, if I'm referred to a carpet cleaner, I'm going to go check them out online. So it's important. Yeah, it's always more effective when someone else brags about you than when you brag about you.
And it's more to like ask for it.
True.
I've got that.
Years.
And
Uh-huh.
I've gone back to my first book, because I'm trying to get,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be better about it. And remember that sometimes they don't react to the first text,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll wait a week. And I'll send it again.
Yeah.
And by the third time I sent it, third week, push the button. They're busy. They just
Right.
done something
Yeah.
else. It's time further, and they say,
Exactly.
I have a relationship with them.
Right.
So.
And they want to. They want us to, they want to know that they appreciated you. They want you to know that they appreciated you. And that's one of the best ways they can. So
It's just a pain. They don't know what to write.
it's true. Or
Out there with their name on it.
I've done that too. And like sometimes when my dentist asks for a review, I'm like, I don't think you want that. Like not because they're not good, but because it's not my ideal experience to be at the dentist. Like that's not my dream for the day. Okay.
Think about ChatGPT. So just go to ChatGPT and say, in fact, this yoga instructor where I take yoga from, she just sent me a link. It just reminded me.
Yeah.
Now I need to write something.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
like, "Can you do this?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I struggle that way too.
Mm.
What I'm saying is going to be out there. People are going to be critiquing it, but now ChatGPT kind of takes out all
That
of that
that's funny.
frustration.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
add your own little flair into it, but and asking them if you can use it. I use it at my listing presentations. Like I will show some of those reviews that I've written, and there's a specific, like I'll always ask the listing person, like, what's important to you? One says, oh, it's important to me, I need help with staging the house. One says it's important to me that we get the best price, whatever. Like, well, the one that said staging the house, I was like, oh, no one's ever said that before. But let me tell you about this person that wrote this review. When I first met them, I told them their house in the as-is condition would sell for 1.2, right? And I gave them a big list of things, a big list. It was a lot. Like the whole house needed to be repainted, and it was an 8,000 square foot house. Like it was a lot.
It's $1 million.
Yeah.
So,
And I said, do these things and we will get more. And we staged the house and we did the whole thing. We sold that house for 1.5. So and that showing that seller who said, I need help with staging, I can get you more money because I will help you get it the way it needs to be to sell for top dollar. They listed with me. And that was one that it was,
They were that.
no.
This is a fascinating topic to me because you get that sense, I would imagine, by just experience. Like, you know, if I have a $1.2 million house and we put in this work, we're gonna get it to a point where it's worth the work that we
Yeah.
put in. 'Cause
Mhm.
that's what sellers always want to know in my
Right.
experience. Like, if I spend $10,000 on
Am I gonna get it back?
Am I gonna get that back and more? Because if not, I'll just sell it as is.
Totally. And there are people where I've told them, do not spend a dime, you will not get it back. I don't know. It's
Carpet
time.
paint,
Yeah, carpet and paint, but
carpet
paint this house. Okay, so this house was 8,000 square feet, right? It was a very unique house. It had a kitchen on every floor. So it was a basement, main floor, upstairs. It had a full kitchen on every floor of the house. So you're thinking multi-generational, probably like grandma lives in the basement, kids live in the basement, grandma lives, I don't know, whatever. But the house was built in like 2006 when that faux paint style was real popular. And not even that, it was like the plaster. It was like Italian plaster and like it looked horrible. I mean, in 2023 or whatever year it was that I sold this house, it just did not, and it was brown. Every single thing in this house was brown. The walls were brown, the floors were brown, the furniture was brown, the cushions on the furniture were brown. I was like, I was like, too much brown. And that brown is gone. Like brown is not in style right now, right? So everything was brown. So they painted the walls white. It made an immense difference. But they spent $50,000 to do that. But hey, they got 300,000 more in the end. Well,
What if they, I mean, like, if they don't want to hassle and they say, I'd rather just sell it as is, can you say, well, if you do carpet and paint, you're not gonna only make back the money.
you'll
but
sell
you're
it
gonna
faster.
and
You'll
get
have more demand. Yes, because you have more demand, you're going to sell it faster and for more money, clearly. But there are some houses that it's just not worth. Because
People who don't have the money.
yeah, I look very, very closely at the pictures of the ones that have sold. So like, I'm like, all right, the ones that have sold that were updated sold for this much. The ones that were sold that were not updated have sold for that much. And I compare them like I've worked with some investors before. Yeah. Like I have a client right now, they're considering listing soon and they're like, their countertops are the old Corian countertops, which is fine. It's not bad. Their cabinets are oak. It's fine. It's just not updated, right? But in that age and neighborhood of a home, people are going to want to go in and replace the way they want to replace. And I told her that. I'm like, we just sell this as is because a buyer, it's going to be a younger buyer. She's an older woman and it's going to be a younger buyer who's got this great idea for this house of what they're going to do to it. So it just depends. Yeah, experience is part of it, but I study the listings of the other comparables and I look very closely. Like I have worked with investors before where they're like, okay, if we buy this and turn around and resell it as is, what's it worth? And then what's it worth if we fix it up? And I'm always really careful on that one because it can take time to fix it up. Well, I've had one investor client that twice we did this and it took them way longer to fix it up than they originally thought it would. And both times the market was in their favor, like 100 grand. So it was way more than I thought it would be, but you know, it's just time and who knows, it could have gone the other way. You know, we just don't know. So a lot of study on the MLS. Really, I'll look very, very carefully. Like, hey, this one had a new roof and yours doesn't. This one had a new furnace and yours doesn't. And yours is 25 years old. The furnace and roof are going to need to go soon. You know, those kind of things that will make a difference. Yeah.
It's all they can do just to sell the house.
Yeah, emotional and Mm-mm.
I had one.
No.
There was just, I staged almost all that.
yeah.
I would got a stage.
Mhm.
It was an old house, the old stuff in it.
Yeah.
And she
She
priced
kind
out
of had a
how
heart
hard.
attack just doing the contracts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we didn't do anything.
Right.
We do a whole workshop on this topic. Right?
Yeah.
Always.
It's yeah, staging. I wouldn't even if I do it myself, which sometimes I do myself, sometimes I hire. Just depends on the house and what furniture they have in there to start with. Like, what's my starting point? If they need like intense staging, then I hire it out, or just depends.
Well,
But
if it's in bad shape, they're not carpet and paint. I'm not-
yeah, because
I'm not gonna-
it,
You can't put nice furniture on that's, I mean,
Oh.
it looks like nice furniture on that's, and now it's a place to waste money.
oh,
Thinking too, but-
But do you see, so like, but you wouldn't just get your money back, you would see a return.
Yeah.
right? That's what I'm
You're
wondering.
absolutely going to sell
more.
For more money and
Yeah.
faster.
it's more desirable.
I
Yeah.
don't know what it is, or if the
They don't have
carpet doesn't
vision.
match
No, they don't have
for
vision.
some reason. Whole bunch of different colors.
Right.
With colored rooms. I don't know what the deal is, unless you really like it, the one buyer that wants that color in that room.
Yeah.
They need-
Mhm.
It doesn't take that much work, do a paint party, so I tell people sometimes, have all your family members over, cover the carpet really good and paint this thing.
And it's trying to get it from being your house, this is what I tell them, to being able for people to envision it as their house. This is your house. This is how you live. But we want the buyer to be comfortable enough to say, oh yeah, my kids could live here and my daughter would want that wall pink. You know, where they can't see past what it is now. It's bright orange. It's like, they're like, my daughter wouldn't want a bright orange wall. Well, you can paint it, you know? Like, yeah. Oh.
I had that same perspective of get in there, and I flipped it and I painted everything like you're saying. I did carpet throughout the whole house, and it was an expense that I did.
Right.
I took this on, did it. And then I staged it,
Uh,
stage
uh-huh.
7. It was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sold it for way more than
Right.
I expected.
Mhm.
So that it did turn out really well. And there's something about the smell of the carpet.
Yeah.
It feels like
A new house.
Like
Mhm.
there's no grimy stuff, in the 20-year-old carpet.
Yes.
That was there when we pulled it up.
Yep.
So
Al-
it really did pay off.
Although I have had a client tell me before, they're like, our agent made us replace all the carpet in the whole house. And then the buyers came along, they bought the house and we saw them tearing out the brand new carpet. And I was like, oh,
But they still might not have bought
they
it,
true.
right?
It's true. They might not have bought it, but it's just like, ouch, that hurts. You just don't know. So,
You have to be emotionally. you have to be
detached.
emotionally separate.
Yeah.
That's- I think that's the hard thing about sellers. Hopefully they love their home.
Right. Or there's memories there. There's, 20 years or yeah, exactly. Okay. So we'll keep going here. Oops, I hit the wrong button. All right. Seller reviews. We talked about that. Buyer reviews. Buyer reviews are going to talk about things like, I think my buyer reviews are mostly like that I'm pretty patient with people. Whereas I actually had a buyer client of mine that they fired an agent. They were here for 3 days to find a house. And they said, this agent we were working with told us she wouldn't show us more than 5 houses in a day. And I'm like, but you guys need to find a house. Like you're coming here for a job next month and she won't show you more than 5 houses. And he's like, she won't budge on that. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense to me. I will show you from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We will find your house. And we did. We showed a lot of houses, but we found their house. And then
You're coming in from out of state, you don't know
yes,
the
we only
area.
have a limited time. And she told him,
The neighborhood
right.
or-
And we went to a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of things. Yeah, true.
Yeah,
Mhm.
talk about being a fiduciary.
Right,
about
how are
putting
you?
the client's needs above your own.
Like why, I didn't even make sense to me why she would say that. But I'm like, no, I will block out the whole day for you guys. We can go from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And we went to a lot of houses in a lot of different areas. And when they sold it a year and a half later, they called me without even blinking, because they knew I was looking out for their best interest. Okay, quickly, ahas, anything so far? We're kind of going through and we're not even halfway, guys. Like, oh boy. No, it's good. You're good. You're good. So, okay, we are kind of doing our ahas as we go along, so we'll keep cruising. All right. Success with buyers. Okay, buyers. This is awesome. I love this. What buyers want most from their agent. You'll notice none of these say open a door. Right? Yeah. It's I think it's interesting. There's this different model. I wonder how it will change with the NAR settlement. I had a past client of mine who told me, they called me up and they said, we want to see this house. It's on our street. we live, it's been on the market 4 months now and we want to see it. And I was like, okay. And then they said, we actually saw it on Saturday. I'm like, oh, would they have an open house or something? And he said, no. It was one of those Redfin, or I don't even know what company, one of the companies where it's like, we can show you this house in 30 minutes. And he clicked the button and an agent came out, opened the door. That's all he wanted. He's like, I would never use that agent because you're our agent. But I'm like, I wonder how that will change with the NAR settlement, because they have to sign an agreement before they walk in that house. So I'm gonna have to tell my clients, don't go look at houses with some rando when call me. Like, I didn't even think to say that, but.
Well, and another reason too, not to have your clients go have the listing agent hook the door, is because it's not being shown a lot, it's not a really busy time, they're gonna remember those.
Right.
And now you're.
Oh, it wasn't even the listing agent. This was just a buyer agent from some other completely different company. Like, it wasn't even the same company. Yeah.
I think you're doing
Right.
not trouble you.
But the listing agent won't be very happy with you.
And we start to negotiate.
Took them away from their family on a Saturday. Yeah, exactly. So they want us to help them find the right house. And that's the right house for them, not the right house for us. We have to put ourselves, oh, this was my favorite. Recently, I had this older couple, but I didn't think they were that old. They may be in their 60s, right? And they were coming down from Idaho and they wanted to find a house. And they were like telling me what they wanted. And I have this picture in my mind based on what they've told me, what they want. And then we go see 3 or 4 houses. And I was like, oh, this one would be like on the MLS. I'm like, this will be perfect for them. We walk in it and they're like, whatever, okay, it's fine. I'm like, really? I thought they'd be excited about this. I know. But then we walked in the next house that was 25 years old, had the old ugly light fixtures and old ugly cabinets. And they're like, this feels like home. And I was like, okay, I got to shut my mouth and not put my opinions into this. And remember, they like the old stuff. Like, it feels like home to them. And where I'm like, oh, this needs to be updated. It needs this. I'm like, zip it. Like, this is what is the best home for them. And they did buy one with weird, ugly stuff in it, and they love it. So, and then they need us obviously to negotiate the terms of the sale, help with the price, helping them know what the right price is. So this is what and the buyers want from us. This is from NAR. The UAR actually did focus groups here in Utah of people who'd recently bought homes. And that list is actually very fascinating. I have it, so I saved it for my CE class that I teach, but it's really fascinating because they do say how much they need their buyer's agents to guide them through the process, and that they wouldn't have wanted to do it without a buyer's agent. So.
Well, and if you're a good agent, then you're helping them see what needs to be seen.
They don't know what to look for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
So.
oh, this is a great location because of these reasons. Or this is a negative because of these reasons. Sometimes they don't know.
Right. I always tell my buyers, hey, I will tell you things that will be factors for resale. This may be the perfect house for you, but if you call me back in 3 years to sell it and I come back and say, oh, but you guys, it's going to get 20,000 less because it packs up to a main street. Why didn't you tell us that when we bought it? I don't want to be that agent. I want to tell you when you bought it. Still, it's the perfect house for you. It fits your budget.
And you got it for 20,000.
Exactly, because it backs the main road. Yeah. So yeah, those are things that I always tell people. I try to keep my personal opinions out of it as much as I can, unless they ask my personal opinion. Then I'll tell them yeah, I like that or whatever. But all right. So talking about the buyer needs analysis, who's going to be living here? That's when you got to be careful how you ask because of the fair housing stuff. Who's going to live in the house? What are some non-negotiables for your house? This is kind of getting to what the buyer needs and how are we going to get there? So if you had to name the top 5 non-negotiables, what would they be? I think 5 might be a lot. I think I'm 1 or 2. Right.
I think they have.
Right. The 3-car garage is a must though, whatever. I think 5 is too many to ask. I would say 1 or 2. What are your 1 or 2 non-negotiable items? Do you have a preference for the year the house was built? Okay, but let's say the house was built 40 years ago, but it was completely gutted and remodeled. Does that work for you? Do you want a house move-in condition? You're willing to do some work on it? My favorite were when the flip shows on TV started happening on HGTV, and buyers were like, I want a fixer-upper. And I was like, okay. I'd show them 5 or 6 fixer-uppers and they're like, oh man, that looks like too much work. And I'm like, that is what you asked for. And then I go show them one house that's in good condition. They're like, yeah, this works. I'm like, you want a fixer-upper because you want to be on TV. So exactly. I just want a little cosmetic. Yeah, it's not even that expensive. Right. They can't have that vision. And a lot of people don't. And a lot of people can't get there. So after showing them 6 houses of going, oh, this is so gross, you need to then like, well, let's just go look at this one just to see what you think of it. When people visit your home, what do you want it to say about you? Are there specific features you want your home to feel like? What do you want it to feel like? So good questions to ask, kind of getting to the heart of what they need. All right, so reasons people buy is because their lives change or their world changes. That is why people need to move, and that continues to happen regardless of what the interest rates are, regardless of what the inventory is. People always need to move. People get divorced, people get married, people die, it just have kids, people, yeah, lots of things happen. Job changes, absolutely. So we are going to have some tough conversations with that. This is one of my, like, what are some things that we need to prepare our buyers when we're going through this process? What are some conversations that you think you need to have with your client along the way? Colleen, you probably know. Like, hey, we're buying a house. Please don't go buy a boat.
Oh, for sure.
Please don't quit your job. Please don't change jobs without talking to your lender first. But I got this really good offer, but it's in a totally different industry. Like, you need to talk to your lender first. I actually have a list that I give them that's like what not to do when you're buying a house. And the biggest one is don't go buy a truck. That's 100, yeah, credit cards. Yeah. Yeah. Don't start new accounts.
If we can set up charge for anything, so they won't
Oh.
look at us actually. So as soon as they call, they'll charge.
Oh no.
And yes, it was for the deals and they had to prove it. And then they
Yeah.
pulled the credit score too many times. And proving
Oh.
it, dropped their credit score and it was a nightmare at the last minute. So
Yeah. Yep. And like, I literally had this was when I was young in the real estate. Had a client, we got to the closing table and they asked the question, they redo like the loan application and it says, has anything changed from your loan application? And the buyer wife goes, well, does it matter that I just quit my job on the way here? And the lender was like, you what? The lender was sitting at the table and she said,
You really did it on the drive there?
Yeah.
Just do it on the drive home.
well,
Don't do it on the drive
and
back.
not even on the drive home, the day after it funds, because they will check again.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So literally we had to redo the entire loan. It took 3 more weeks and they were lucky they were able to buy that house because they were tight on their margins. But like, that would have been a conversation I could have had with her before. That would have solved a lot of problems for a lot of us. So. We got a house now. Yeah, exactly. Well, hers was like, I mean, she worked at a movie theater, so it wasn't like a high paying job, but still they used her income to qualify. So.
My generation. A lot of us have grown up not having to worry about having a job, not fully understanding how that affects
Impacts everything. Yeah. Adulting is hard. It's really hard, but no, it's true. It's very important that they know from us what's important.
It's not just us to look at too.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, absolutely. And so showing them homes based on what they've told you, but then being willing to pivot, because they, especially first-time buyers, They have no idea till they walk through a few homes what they like, what they don't like, what they can expect in their price range, what square footage feels like. You know, what does 1,500 square feet feel like versus 2,500 square feet feel like? And it,
Or a good layout versus a bad. layout.
right. Yeah. So showing homes, obviously, you need to be careful when you're showing homes. Obviously, you need appointments. Don't just show up at a house expecting to get in. Make sure you have confirmed appointments. Make sure you communicate with the buyer or the listing agent. Try and screen in advance. And I try to usually put it like, if I know the people pretty well and have a pretty good idea of what they want, I'll try to put the one that I think they're going to like the best first. So everything else is being compared to that, as that's the ideal. And that's not, I'm not always right, because sometimes you get to the house and you're like, this looked great in pictures, but there's dog poop right there. Like, what? like why? Yeah, bird poop. Whatever it is, like it looked good in pictures, but for whatever reason, when you get there, it's not what any of you expected. So, but it's still like, that's a strategy of just having that to compare.
You know, it's, my uncle is very techy.
Uh-huh.
We're working. My grandmother is a broker, all that, to figure out how to do ways. Pretty much what he'll do is like, he'll walk through the house with his camera. So you have you been on Google Earth and like Google what's the
yeah.
It's like that, but within a house.
Wow.
And using that as a way of like a virtual walkthrough. All right, let's see what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not going to feel the same way.
Right.
But could you have like 5 or 6? All right, let's walk through these. This is the type of thing we're looking for when we go to open houses, and help them figure out, hey, this is what I want. This seems.
Yeah. And really, truly though, I am always super careful if someone, I want them to walk through the house with me, because I have had out-of-state clients that were wanting to buy a house sight unseen, and then I'd go walk through it for them, and I'm like, you guys do not want this house. It's been completely, for example, this was up like Sugar House or Holiday, and gorgeous. The pictures looked amazing, all completely redone, beautiful. I was like, why is it priced so low? Like, it seems really, what's the deal? And my clients they were ready to make a sight unseen offer. I went up and walked through it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe in this house. My eyes are watering because it smells like 25 cats. And they had just remodeled, like it was a fresh remodel, but whoever remodeled it did not notice that it smelled like 25 cats. Didn't get that out. And I was like, you guys, it was in my hair. I was in that house 2 minutes, and like I felt like I was going to throw up. Seriously, I felt like my hair was just stinky. I was like, no, I won't let you guys buy this house. And they were like, what? And I was like, I will not let you buy this house. They're like, yeah, you can't get that smell out because it's already been redone. Like all the flooring, all the walls, like everything had been redone. Oh, yes. It was gross. Yeah, all new stuff. Oh, so seriously, I'm always really, really careful if they're like, we want to make an offer sight unseen. And some agents actually won't accept offers sight unseen. So you have to be careful. Yeah, well, I've had so many, even myself, I've had so many people like, we want to make an offer. We want to make an offer before they walked in the door. And then they walk in the door and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. You know, like whatever that. For sure, for sure.
First thing they see.
Yep. Like, oh, it's got a crack in it. You know. Or we completely walked away from that one.
You know, if they had 25 cats, that probably would have worked out.
It's true for the right buyer. For the right buyer. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. We gotta find the right buyer. You gotta find the right buyer for that one. Oh, it was really gross. And yeah. I mean, you'd have to gut the house because probably the cats had peed on the walls and it was like in the subfloor and like you'd have to gut it. Like, no, they did a cute remodel. It was cute, looked glossy and nice, but Uh-huh,
When I say it's almost impossible,
permeates. Yep, exactly. So
I
anyway.
knew I didn't.
Once you've been in a house,
You can like it's in your throat, it's in your hair, it's like, oh, it does. That was gross. Uh-huh. Yeah, it was, and it was a small house. It wasn't even that big. Like, uh-huh. Yeah. It's really bad. Okay, so
It's gonna happen.
some of this,
It's gonna be a big deal.
yeah,
That's
right. Pointing out potential issues and concerns with each house. That's definitely your job. Although we don't want to go overboard on that and like point out every flaw. So funny. I had a friend that was selling their house for sell by owner. And she called me up and said, can you come over? We've had all these people come through. Can you come over and just, see what I'm doing wrong, basically? And I was like,
Does she
fine.
have it listed by owner?
Yeah. And I went over and literally the house wasn't that old. It wasn't in bad shape, but we walked through every room. We're going to fix that. We're going to do this. That's going to,
So they knew everything that was wrong. They just didn't
she was
do it.
trying to be so honest about every little tiny flaw in the house that she was scaring people away.
Oh, she's showing them.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So she showed it I said, show it to me like you show a buyer. And she did. Yeah. She's like, well, we're going to fix this and that's broken and this. She's just trying to be honest. She thinks I'm doing the right thing by being honest. Yeah. And so they ended up listing it with me. And I told her, I said, you need me. You need me as the buffer because buyers don't care about that. I know you're trying to be honest. That's why we have this seller disclosure document. You can disclose to your heart's content after they fall in love with your house. We don't want them to be scared off because of a death by 1,000 cuts. It's tiny little things that you're pointing out that are non-issues that a buyer won't even care, but you're scaring them. So we sold it. Okay. All right. Showing homes, you have to interact with agents.
Oh, that was the reason you would do that.
Yeah. Because at first I thought this is going to be a huge waste of my time because they're not going to list with me. They think they can do it better by themselves. And they needed me. They really did. They totally needed me. We kind of skipped over, but safety when showing homes. Yes, I keep stuff in my car all the time. I have snacks and I have drinks and I have stuff because when you're out with a buyer from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. or whatever, and you don't want to stop every 5 minutes to get a snack, I keep them in my car so they keep their energy up, keep them like I have healthy snacks and I have junk so they can choose whatever they want. We don't obviously keep as much paperwork with us anymore as we used to. I used to have packets in my trunk of buyer packets and seller packets and stuff like that. GPS, hopefully we all have GPS on our phone. First aid kit, I can't tell you how many times I've been asked for a Band-Aid by a client. Flashlight. Back in the day, they used to, like bank-owned homes would not have the power on. So we used to have to go in these bank-owned homes on a winter night when it gets dark at 5 o'clock in the evening and there's no power on. It was like very awkward. I did have one of those though that my buyer bought and it ended up being the only meth and mold house I've ever sold. They flipped it. So yeah, crazy stuff. Yeah, like, I mean, some of these things I don't even know what it is, like what's graphite for a sticky lock, I don't know. But I keep hand sanitizer, I keep, all the stuff. I hate umbrellas, so I don't use those, but notepads, pens. When I'm going through showing houses with a buyer, I print out the MLS, the agent full report for me, and I have my notes on it, like to show I need this code or whatever. And then I print out the MLS client full report for my clients and I'll put them in the same order. So as we're going through and we're going to see 6 houses, they're sitting in my passenger seat. I give them a pen and I say, make notes of the houses. Because when you see 6 houses, they kind of all blend together, right? But then I tell them, like I ask them as we're leaving, and if it's clear that that is not the house for them, I'm like, hey, take that piece of paper, let me have it. And I take it from them and I crumple it up and I throw it on the floor. That wasn't your house. And they're like, Like, don't waste your time making notes about it because it clearly was not the house for you. Like, like just take that one off. It's not even consideration. But just having that for them.
So do you have like a clipboard with that? A clipboard?
I usually have a folder that I give them all the stuff in, and that kind of works for that.
That you know what houses you want to show. Like, put the address on the top of the one.
Oh yeah, it's on it from the MLS. So yeah. And if they're following me in their car, that way they know what the next address to go to is or whatever. Safety. Okay. I always tell my clients this nowadays, like just assume you're being recorded.
Absolutely.
Any house you walk into, assume there are cameras, even if you cannot see them. So I tell them, we're not going to talk about what you want to offer in the house or even in the driveway. We're going to talk about that when we're back in the car. We're not going to talk about, yes, we're not going to talk about that where they might be able to hear us. You can say nice things. You can say, this is really pretty. This is nice. You can compliment the house. But if you go through and you say, I have to have this house, you've just killed my negotiating power for you. So safety for sure, but also like safety of meeting people at houses. If you ever get a weird vibe, it's better to be safe than sorry. I always, like, you've got an appointment to show the house, but still I always walk in and I'm like, hello, just really loud, just so if anyone's home, they hear me. I don't want to surprise anyone in the bedroom. I don't want to surprise anyone in the shower. I have had that happen though, where I'm like showing a house and I hear the shower running and I'm like, you guys, we're going to get out of here real fast. And they're like, why? I'm like, I don't want that guy coming out of the shower while we're here. Like, it's just awkward. So, and then, yeah, who you meet, where you meet them. Back when my kids were little, I would even just park my kids in the car because at least somebody's there. Like if I'm meeting someone I don't know, they know somebody's there watching, There's just weird people in the world. It's, yeah.
Where, it's a potential buyer and then he's a very strange man.
Oh,
I reserved one of these rooms and then I brought in Clay
uh-huh.
because Clay was over this bird's eye
Oh.
area.
Oh,
It's this
land.
remote
Yeah.
area where this builder is gonna have this development with cool homes. And he was like, I didn't know what bird's eye was.
Yeah.
And it's in like Spanish Fork Canyon.
Uh-huh.
But this guy was very strange and it ended up being a really bad, like awful situation mentally. Like
Yeah.
his energy was so, and I know
Oh.
I could identify the type of man.
Yeah.
That was clear, but afterwards,
Clay was there the whole time?
Clay was there for
Good.
part of it because I
Mm.
brought him in. He was here. He just finished, and I just went down and I said, "Hey, would you mind just
After
having
you
this guy?"
already met with your
Yep,
son,
I
you got
had
the
met.
vibe.
Yep, I already got the vibe.
Mhm.
So after Clay found me, and I knew,
Right,
but
right.
I had worked at the front desk
Yeah.
for a week, so people knew me. And he's like, "Hey, I just want you to know,
Don't
like,
go there.
do not show this guy.
Mm-mm.
Don't take him out the bird's eye.
In
Do
the
not like."
Yeah, don't go out in the middle of nowhere with this guy, please. Oh,
I did too. And I'm
yeah.
like, he's a
Yeah.
I think that it's actually dangerous.
Oh.
I have a concealed carry permit that I carry, but like,
You don't wanna have to shoot. them.
Yeah, you don't want to have to go.
Let's talk about, can we just like cover just like what you think I should do? Because
Mhm.
I'm not married and I'm not,
Mhm. Right.
like I do carry and I have a concealed carry, but
Yeah.
like it's.
So the Forewarn app, have you guys seen that with UCAR? The Forewarn app, where it is, it will do like a background check on people based off their phone number and their name. And that can be super helpful because I haven't had it happen myself, but I had a friend of mine get a call from somebody who was looking to buy a $2 million property, and they'd never owned a property before in their lives. They had criminal background. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to go meet these people. I mean, I've personally had it happen where I've just said no. Like, I had a guy call me up. This was back when $1 million was a big house. And he had this $1 million house up in Woodland Hills that he wanted me to come list. And he said, somebody told me to call you. And I said, oh, who? Oh, I don't want to tell you. And I was like, that's weird. Like, why would you not tell me? If someone told you to call me, why would you not tell me? And so we,
I want to thank them.
right. And that's what I told him. I did tell him that after I was like, well, I just want to say thank you to whoever told you to call me. He's like, I just don't want to tell you. I'm like, well, then I'm sorry, but I'm not willing to come. I don't want to end up dead in your basement. I didn't say that part, but like I don't want to be in a situation where I can't even like ask the person who told you to call me, is this guy a weirdo? Like, right? So I just wouldn't even go near it. I'd be like, right. Like, why would you even, that's just weird. So I would, if he asked, like, if he called you back and said, hey, I want you to show me this, I'd be like, I'm so sorry, I can't right now. Let me refer you to a mail agent,
It was really, really bad situation.
Mm. Ew. Yeah, nobody needs that.
Towards the end of it, I'm finishing it up. I think he knew that I hadn't. figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, I hadn't
Mhm.
right off the bat. I could pick up on certain types of meds.
Yeah.
So it was a situation. I'm glad
And that was really good you met him here.
Yeah, and like wait.
Yeah.
Sometimes as a woman, I'm like, oh, I
My
stereotype. Yeah.
Right. Or
Like,
I'm
wait,
over,
I
yeah.
find her. And he
Mhm.
even brought up an app. It was the forward app.
Forewarn,
He's like,
yeah.
"Give me this number and I will see what
Mhm.
type of background you have."
Seriously.
We hadn't had
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I know. It's kind of always that.
Yeah, you do. Totally.
After we met for like an hour, I mean, it was like wasting my time now. 'cause
Yeah.
it's all over the place.
Right.
And finally, like, I don't even need a realtor. I am actually better at this than most realtors anyway. And just started getting really arrogant about his, ability to find a home.
Wow.
He's like, I've had realtors in the past. I haven't killed any. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Red flag. Let's see him on Dateline in a few weeks. Like, wow. We're done.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
And
we're
he
done.
just kind of sat there and I go and open the door and I'm like, thank you. And I shake his hand and I'm like, this guy was so
Wow.
weird. But I feel like that's going to be a problem.
It can be. It can be. And I mean, just like I said, following your gut and listening, and that you have a concealed carry, that's huge. That makes you feel safer, but still, like if you need someone, if you're going out to a remote area with someone you've never met before, I would ask another agent to go with you. Really. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because it was out of state, so I didn't know if they were for real.
Right. Yeah, seriously, because
And it's like they were showing the house, whatever it is.
yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, because if you bring someone with you and they're that weird, they're going to shut it quick. They're going to shut it down because they don't want to be in that situation with someone else breathing down their neck. I'm sorry, that's awful. Okay, so our job is to sell homes, not to just show homes. Some of our clients need to remember this. We're not just showing homes because it's a fun thing to do. Like our job is to sell them. Paying attention to body language. I love April actually showed a listing for me while I was out of town, and she was very conscious of their body language and their cues. They're like, what are their buying cues? What are they saying? And some people are really closed off and they don't let you know. But some people you can easily see, oh, we're going to put our couch over here. Would our table fit in here? That kind of thing. They want to buy this house. They're considering it. Yeah, they're picturing. I had my husband's cousin's house listed one time, and he's like, is it weird that they just like made themselves at home and sat on the couch and like stayed and talked for a while? I'm like, no, that's good. That's good. That means they were picturing themselves living there. So he was like, oh, I just thought it was weird. It is a little. Yeah. It is. Yep. Yeah. And your stuff and can be uncomfortable. But another thing that I will ask people, if we've been out and saw 6 houses, let's say, and at the end of that day where we've kind of maybe ruled one out, but we still have 5 left, that's a lot, right? That they could be considering. Like, okay, if you had to choose one from the 5 that are left on our list today, which one would it be? And it helps them kind of narrow it down and go, oh, okay, well, I'm not saying you have to make an offer right now. Just saying, if today was our only day to see houses and you had to pick one of those 5, which would it be?
For agents, and tell me if this is a good idea, that they'll say like, you've shown 2,
Mhm.
which one do you like better of the 2?
Yeah,
Okay, then and why?
right.
Okay, then let's just concentrate on that one, and if you find it one better, then tell me that you like better than
Yeah,
this.
that can
And
work.
this one.
Depends on the client's personality. And yeah, I think that can work. Just depends on their personality. Some might feel pressured
That
if you
feels like
after the
pressure to
first
me.
2. Yeah, some might feel like, oh, I don't want to choose yet. I want to see more. And that would be me
I
too.
feel like, oh, I like this better about that one, but I also
Uh.
like that one. I'm not sure because you're new to it.
Yeah, the phrase you're going to learn in real estate is, if I could take this from that house and this from that house and put them together, you'll hear that a million times because that's what people will say all day long. Is it is good feedback, because if you could find the house that had both of those things, then that works. But no house is perfect, right? So any way that works for you and for them, like helping that whittle it down, I guess, is one thing. So, all right, reasons buyers hesitate is they're afraid. They don't want to commit. I had one client, he was a single guy and he'd been divorced twice. And he's like, I think I have commitment issues now that I've been divorced twice. And I'm like, hey, we showed houses to him for a year. I mean, it took a year. And then he finally committed to a house. Something minor about the house. Okay, let's say, so my client that's potentially going to list this house with Corian countertops. Corian countertops are not the thing right now, right? Kind of old. So I'm having my seller go get a bid on granite and quartz, so we know the number, so that,
They want instead.
yep. And so when a buyer says, I want granite, I don't like that Corian, well, it's only $2,500 to fix it, and we'll give you an allowance for that $2,500, right? So that's so easy to fix before they even move into the house. And it's not even that expensive. So you kind of have to be prepared a little bit with, like, not that we're trying to talk them into something that doesn't work for them, but if it does work for them in every other way, then we can fix this problem. That's not that big of a deal. They feel like they haven't seen enough homes. I've had clients buy after looking at one house and like literally be like, let's go to the office and write an offer. We don't need to see another one. And I've had others that were like, we need to see every house on the market. And this, this could take months and you're going to lose the one that,
And all the houses on the market are now gone.
right. This was back in the day when you could go for a month and all those houses would still be there. I know it was rough. Those were rough times because there was no urgency, none at all. I mean, we could go 3 months and that house would still be there. It was rough, but they need to sleep on it or pray on it, whatever, get the opinion of their mom, their dad, their uncle, whatever. Those are all legitimate things. And we just need to know how to work with each client separately to get them what they want. Our goal is to get them what they want, not for us to make a sale, not for us to, right, pressure them into something that, like, I still remember I had an agent that was a newer agent and I was working with her. This was years and years and years ago. And she was showing her sister houses, her sister and her sister's husband. And she finally said, I can't do it anymore. She said, they keep finding houses that are perfect, but they won't buy them. And I keep hammering them to buy them and they won't buy them. And I'm like, let me go out with them for a day. Let's see how this goes. And her sister was like, she just kept pressuring me into houses that weren't right for us. And I'm like, okay,
You had a different vision.
yeah, like those weren't the right houses for us. So just finding what works for them, not what you think works for them. Yeah, the rivalry of absolutely. Yeah. So she was like, what else do I need to do to get her to buy a house? And then after I'd showed her sister, a few houses, and I went back and looked at the ones that she thought were perfect for her sister, they were nothing like what the sister really wanted, so there was that. So yeah. Okay, so we're always going to go back to their motivation. Why is the big yard important to you? Why does it have to be turnkey? Why do we not want to mess around with getting things that are fixer-uppers or things like that? Going back to the things that they said they wanted, allay their fears, like solve their challenges. These are all things that we can do to help make that decision quicker, easier. Cost of waiting, like that's a big one with interest rates. What if interest rates go up another % from now till you actually decide to buy a house in a year? Yeah. So what's that cost to you? Okay. We're kind of doing this as we go along, and we are running out of time. We got 7 minutes. So we're gonna cruise. Oh man, we have all sellers to do. All right, a lot of similar. Apparently, I talk too much. Similarities, what the sellers want, and they want us to tell them. Sometimes when I was a newer agent, I was actually hesitant to tell them what they needed to do because it's their house. You know, they live there, but they want us to tell them that what they're going to need to do to sell it for more. I still remember this one time. It was a very, very, very cluttered house. And I walked in and I go, you guys need to declutter. And they're like, what?
Where's the?
They had no idea. They had no idea. It was very cluttered. So they don't see it when they live in a house. I'm like, we need to make your house look as much like a model home as we can. You still have to live here. Yes. But, you know,
It's a house different than
it's so true. You can't live in your house the same way.
Would there be times where it's a good idea to, like, hey, rent a storage unit?
Oh, yeah.
Not-
Totally. I just said that to people last week. Yeah. Yeah. Fill the garage up with boxes. That's fine. People expect the garage to have boxes. It's not a big deal. So,
When I first started selling real estate was, you have to pack it all anyway.
yep.
And if we get an offer, which hopefully we will, right away, we're gonna have 30 days for you to pack everything, so pack it all now.
Yes.
Instead of saying, hey, anything might be cluttered, just pack it, pack everything.
Whenever you're trying to get a kid out of the house, want to make sure this is ready to go.
Right.
Into the garage.
Especially when it's those precious, ugly things. Like I had one that had like all these collectible fairies that were just weird, but they were valuable. I'm like, you don't want people touching those. You don't want them knocked over. You don't want them breaking. Like ugly. Oh yeah, yeah. Put it away. Oh, I tell them, yep. I'm like, drugs, prescriptions, guns, anything like that, put it away or take it with you when there's a showing because, yeah, jewelry.
Well, somebody may take it. You don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Lock it up.
Something was stolen while I'm.
Yeah.
Because like, you can't be with everybody every
Uh-uh.
single moment, especially when you're multiple people looking, and it's just like, I'd hate for their stuff, whatever it is, jewelry, guns,
Yeah.
Yeah, it should all be-
medicine.
As they're coming out the door, all right, come through.
No, I mean, for the most part, most people are trustworthy, but you will come across people. So I think I've told this story to somebody. I had an agent that used to always do all my open houses for me. She used to just always do them all. And one house I had was in American Fork. It was like 500,000. It was old and junky. It wasn't great. And then the next weekend she did one on a house in Saratoga Springs that was like $1 million and it was beautiful, a totally different house. Like the same lady walked through both houses and she asked, yeah. And she kind of asked her like, wait, I saw you last weekend at the other house. And she was like, oh yeah. She was totally looking for drugs. I mean, she could tell something wasn't right. And she's going to all these open houses looking for stuff, you know? So, but sellers timing, the price is going to impact that. And then what's going to stay with the house. So this is why sellers change, their lives change, their world changes. And these are the only things that sellers can control. They can't control the market. They can only control the price and the condition of the house. So we can do things to make it look better. The house should not be shown looking like that. I have two, many. People got really lazy during COVID. They didn't think they needed to do anything to sell their house because they were selling like that. But they would have got more money if they would have fixed them, made them nicer. We talked about all this before, expectations, peace of mind, credibility. Your seller cannot choose based on fair housing who the buyer is going to be. If they choose based on money, that's one thing, but they cannot choose based on a fair housing protected class. So protected classes, I don't know if I probably won't remember them all, are gender, race, marital status. That covers a lot of things just right there. What's that? So yeah, family, familial status. Yeah, a lot of things just right there. So if they ask questions like, I want to know what church they go to. Sorry, that's not relevant to the purchase of this house. Well, I want to make sure that I get a good family in here, you know. Yeah, it's like, you just, it's not relevant. If I do get multiple offers with a seller, I actually put it in a spreadsheet, and a lot of times I won't even put the buyer's name on that spreadsheet. I'll put the agent's name, so I know which offer to go back to if I have 28 offers. But I don't even, because sometimes just the last name can be a telltale of different nationality or race or something. You can't work with them if they're going to, you know, if they're going to not work with fair housing. So I always tell them that when we're listing the house, like, we can't discriminate based on fair housing. Okay. Let your broker know, document it. This is something that can come back to you on a federal level.
If something was, if they were like, no, I will only sell to
Yeah. If the buyer,
person X because of they're white.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've had clients like say that kind of stuff, and then you're just like, what, I can't sell it for you, or you can still sell it.
I've told them there was one that they were like, it was something in a lifestyle issue, and they were like, our neighbors will kill us if we sell to them. And I was like, you can't decide based on that. So that is not your decision maker. The decision maker is the offer. What is the offer? What, you know, exactly.
Withdraw that request or cancel contract.
Yeah, I mean, you as the agent, if that buyer makes a complaint with fair housing, you as the agent could be in a lot of trouble, and the seller could be in a lot of trouble. So it's a federal level thing. I don't want to ever be involved in a federal level complaint ever. And there have been agents in this office who've been wrongfully accused, because there are people out there looking for opportunities, you know, just like anything. So be careful. No commission is worth your reputation. We know this very well, right? Listings are what are going to get your phone to ring. So listings are definitely what we want to focus on. And I apologize. So the message you put out to attract prospective buyers and sellers is everything. Why did they want to contact you? What is different about you? And what are they going to get if they do? So that's what we are looking for. Okay, we're gonna cruise through. Okay, MLS. MLS is going to be changing soon. I'm actually on the forms committee, and we had a 2-hour long meeting last week, and we got nothing done because of the whole NAR settlement thing. Like, so everything's going to change. All our documents are going to change. Everything's going to be changed. But I have had this happen. This is a true story. I had a builder call me one time and say, I've noticed, I thought I was being punked, really, truly. I've noticed that you have listings in this area where I have a new subdivision coming up, and your listings look good, and your descriptions actually make sense and look good. And I was like, so will you come talk to me about listing my subdivision? I was like, who is this? Like, come on, no, it doesn't happen. But you would be surprised how many people are looking at your listings. And I've had even like neighbors before, like, tell me, oh, I saw your listing over there and it looked so good. And of course, you know, whatever. I'm like, how? They're not even looking for a house. I know they're not, but they're looking at my listings and they're considering, when they do sell, who would they use? Kind of, yeah. It's like, there's this listing right now that it's a family member passed away, and the one brother who's in charge of the estate chose an agent based on being cheap. And the other brother in the family is like, no, we need Amber to do it. I went and looked the other day. It's been on the market 45 days. It has a 2-car garage. The MLS says 0. So they're not even getting buyers to look at it. Yeah. So how unprofessional is that he can't even get that right? You know, like, I'm just waiting for it to not sell so they'll call me. So, all right. We'll skip this signage, obviously. Oh my gosh, we still have tons to get. We're not going to go through all this, guys. So working with other agents. All right. What do you guys think? What questions do you guys have? We're not going to make it through everything. So what questions? We're pretty much out of time.
I feel like there will always be questions.
Always.
There's always,
And there's always something new
yeah.
every time.
I
Really,
just feel like
for sure. Yep. This is a pretty open office in that regard. But people will always help you. You're gonna say something, Sarah?
One question.
Mhm.
Maybe this is, but I know you would be able to answer it as well. But, and as you're doing the listing, if you've listed a home, is there part of the command or a portal that shows? It's like, I took notes, really good notes, and you said one of the best things you can tell your client is, this is what's happening next.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an app or a KW within the portal that shows the actual steps and then it has a little check mark?
Yeah, there's actually a way even that would definitely be a hunter question, but I believe there's even a way within Command to set up automatic alerts to your seller or buyer. Personally, I don't love that because I want to make sure that whatever communication, that it's from me, not like some automated system that gets something weird, tweaked just a little bit of the verbiage. And so, but yeah, there's like a checklist within Command where you can say, okay, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Yeah. Or definitely ask anyone. So, okay.
There are definitely points where I wanted to ask questions.
Mhm.
Wow, kind of like every second on the dot.
Right.
So what's a good way of knowing when you're stumped and need help versus when you're stumped and this is something first?
Oh, that's going to be individual. Everybody's going to be a little bit different on how that goes. But I mean, I think, are you on the productivity coaching program? Get your license. Okay. Got it. So yeah, so that's within that coaching program, then you will have that kind of framework to see like, where to go and who to ask. And they have their own like WhatsApp group. So you can ask questions there. It's going to be individual because everybody's going to be different on what they can figure out on their own versus needing help with. But you do have Hunter for technology. You have Cameron for coaching. And then really any of us, paperwork stuff. Yeah. So there's a lot of people to support you. Cool. All right. I'm going to try and remember names. Tuck, Ivan. Okay. I got it for one day. I'll see if I can remember by tomorrow. And Sarah. What's
write down. So,
What's that? Mine?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
if
It's
any-
yeah, you bet. Or my phone number, either way. My email is Amber Burke, AMBERBURKE at kw.com. It's just easy. And my phone number, on that too, you can, is 801-717-0025. Okay. All right. Well, good luck to y'all. Let me know if I can help. Yeah, you bet. I'm gonna take this off.
Did that happen? Probably past